Hello future tech leaders, I am Sindhuja. Based on my own experience, I know that learning the right skills can shape our future. What if I say learning was as thrilled as the tech world itself? There we go. A cloud foundation, that's exactly what you will experience. From day one, you will be immersed in the interactive sessions and expert-led courses that covers most of the widely used technologies in the zone of data science to cloud computing, which brings more light to the life of a techie. I'm so excited to help you and unlock the true potential of a technology. Well, then why to wait? Let's see what it unfolds.
See, now we classify in the types. The classification might be more or less. We saw 3 classifications here at the S4 review type. There can be only one based upon how the buyer is using this tool. And we saw numerous templates. Even if you just go through the templates, that would be fair enough. Because that you guys are starting with things. It is something like this. We cannot learn text in fortnight, but we can understand things. By this you can at least understand if you get into a project. Now templates are created wide. I'll go to the interface as a user. I'm going to create a statement of one. I've got the classification here. What is this classification? Rothschild's for use for really a standalone is for view. This is the classification that's been maintained in the system. Say for example, I'm going to create a master contract or master below. Admin, it is the user attribute that's been populated. The currency is something which has been maintained in the system and it is populated there. I will go ahead. I have got the supplier list maintained here. I'm going to select any of the supplier. For example, it is in courses. Now it is asking me to select a template. Do I want masters for review template? S4. Because I'm creating master S4 review template, the system is going to by default select it. And then I'm going to continue. See, we have got the details that's been populated. In the template, whatever has been looked, I cannot make the changes. The name is locked in the template. We saw the locked option. Name is locked. I cannot make the changes. Whatever is made invisible there, I don't even see it here. The rules. Why do a user need the rules? Why do a supplier need the rules? They don't need anything as such. It's the rules which should be known to the configuration manager and might be to the administrators working in that line. I have got the options here. These rules. This is a master template. It is asking me what can be carried forward to the child statement of work if it is created from this master template. Master template is not a transactional document. Master template is a master. S4 is something that's being created here to create the child S4W. This is the master contract. but it is not going to go to the supplier. This is not a transactional data. I am going to create everything here. From there, I can carry it to a child S4 view. The child S4 view is a transaction document. For example, if it is some company, let's say Infosys, is creating a contract with G1 Technologies. For probably multiple softwares implementation, they're going to create the master contract for all the softwares, list of softwares. They're going to put across that in the description. And they're going to set the master rules and regulations over here. What needs to be carried forward to the child? What is the budget? Budgetary stuff that needs to be maintained. The rates on and forth. Cost allocations. Everything starting from the accounting part to the costing part. Everything will be maintained here. And what the child S4 rules can be maintained in the sense. What can be carried forward from this? Budget can be maximum. Budget can be set altogether. Then the child S4 will be created for each and every software. C is for a bird. C is for Vivo. And probably we can say success factor, another S4 to. All those S40 view budget will be part of this one. Based on locations. That's where we can get forward from this. And whatever we're setting here, we can carry forward. Fees rules. For fees rules, child statement of work. Use all defined on the master data. We can use everything. Use a subset. We can use some of things. When I select use subset, it changes over here. Can be added, but value cannot be edited. Cannot be added already. Add new items. Can be added and edited. What we can do from master S4 do? We can control its child S4 go. That is the reason behind the scenes. For the creation, classification, and then creation of the templates. We'll be using all this stuff. It's not like we are forced to be used all these things. It depends upon the company's requirement. Companies might use clauses. Then we use clause library. Or it's not. Event hierarchy, event library. If there are events that needs to be used or maintained, we are going to use it or else no. This is what we learned about S4 debug. But yes, rules and regulations are something. No doubt we went across the numerous rules. We understood what it is. But the next level of understanding for a consultant when it comes to the implementation part is to the core. The next level of understanding should be to the core, because we should first understand what the FieldGlass has, a functionality says, and what the buyer's requirement is. We get something called the configuration workbook, on which we are going to work on the get the requirements from the buyer. And it's not one or two guys who will be implementing. Certainly not. It will be a combination of a team who will set and decide on what can be done. At least if you guys are starters, you just know what to do. That's pretty much the best knowledge. Now let's go to the content worker. Similarly to the services, what we did. Services, let's test for W. On top of it, workers. Worker relate to the CO. This is the CV module. For the CV module. And then we shall talk about the workflow, and then we should talk about the configuration. And then I'll give you the glimpse of rate structure and the financial data. For now, let's get into this. Now services. When it comes to the services, the first level of classification we did at SOW type, right? Where do you think for CW the first level of classification would be? As like the SOW type, we have got something called contingent type here. This is where we are going to create the first classification. How many classification is required depends upon the requirement of the buyer. If it is a global company, probably it might need more of classifications. And the standard is something which has been used here. It just gives. Here we go with the job posting template configuration. All these things are not locked or hidden. Similarly, accounting part. When it comes to the accounting part, it is the timesheet and the expense sheet more or less. And some of the codes that's being used for that. All these things will be maintained within the system. And your distribution rule. Why is this distribution rule used? It is used because when we create a job posting, how it's been distributed amongst the suppliers. Posting rule. These are the posting rules. Allow supplier visibility to positions filled. It's been looked. We cannot change it. It is hidden. Nobody wants to see it as well. Job seeker. Work order. How the time and expenses used. Time here and expenses are used. Auto void. Once the timesheets are filled, approved, it should be auto invoiced or not. Job posting from page configuration. What are all the important things that needs to be there in the job posting? Is the travel required for the position? Do we need to have the description, which can be filled by the creator? Need to have a business unit. It is defaulted to the user attribute. If I'm creating a job posting template, certainly I'm creating for my business unit, not for any other business units as a user. Time and expense settings here. This is the template configuration. And these are the rules. And then the job posting. Form page configuration. Form page, in the sense it's the first page of the job posting. When it comes to S4W, it is something like implementation. Let's take the example as implementation. You guys will not be reporting to the manager of the client company. You will not be reporting to any person to the client company. You will be reporting to your own manager within your company. It is only the review part. It's only the review part and meetings will be done with them. But you will be reporting to your own manager because there, what all it requires is what needs to be done. Your client doesn't know step by step what needs to be done, whereas he knows what should be the outcome. That's all. Whereas when it comes to the contingent worker, the contractor will be directly reporting to the company's manager. When that is the case, it is exclusively the time and expense that matters for the payments. It is not events, no management events and characteristics as such in this. It is the job requirement which will be posted in the job posting. And the contractor will be coming in by any of the suppliers. He's going to report to the manager, the client company's manager. Time and expense will be monitored. For creation of it, we can name it, give a description if required. There we go. It looks quite similar, but it is not as lengthy as the S4W classification. Give the title description if required. Do you want none of the administrators or the users to change the description? Lock it. None of them wants to see it. Hide it. But your description is something which should not be hidden, I would say. But there are certain cases where the clients can even want to hide it. Enable simplified workflow. That's one of the workflows. Let's talk about it when we are talking about the workflow. Is it a selectable type? Yes, it is. Selectable type, in essence, is it selectable to create the job posting templates? I've got the job code. Business units service type is stamped. It's defaulted because it is exclusively for the external workers or COA contingent worker. timesheet type standard. But when it is standard, it is like the contractor is filling the timesheet. If it is time in and time out, it is coming out of the punching machine or the scanners that companies use. It will be integrated. It will be integrated to that system and the data will be sent from that system to the field class. Based on that, the timesheets are created and approved, and the invoice will be created eventually. Timesheet frequency weekly, monthly. It's not weekly. We can set it to the monthly in the job posting template while creating. Hello, time in hundreds of hours, not required. Travel time. Is this travel associated with? In a sense, travel time can be. It's an optional stuff. We can put it here that when the job posting template is created out of this, it will be having the travel time enabled. Available podium is the daily expenses that will be paid for the contractor. Hours per day. If it is set to 7 or 8 hours per day, some might punch in 9 or 10. That has to not happen. Issue warning, yes. Estimated expenses, total spending. These are all the things which need not be set here. It can be set at the transaction level when creating the job posting template or say creating the job posting itself. Creator can change that adjustment group, set it to no for the internal control. User rate change matrix, set it to no for the internal control purpose. Creator can change the job posting template. It depends on how buyer needs to do it. External descriptions. These are all the simple rules that needs to be set as per the buyer's requirement. Pretty simple rules, I would say. However, the major important rules and regulations that needs to be set, and we are going to discuss on that. Display rates to the supplier. We can show maximum or we can set it to do not show to the supplier. It depends upon the requirements of the company. Again, submit CV, job seeker rate or salary can exceed the expected rate. And it be yes or no. It's the requirement gathering. In the work order, how it should be. We should use the approval group. By default, it is approval group. That's where the approval, the workflow will be set in. The approval configurations and approval configurations will be set in the configuration part and the group will be residing in the workflow. Active auto activate the work order. We can set it to yes. If somebody doesn't want to waste time, just go ahead and activating manually. Work order revision approvals. Again, it is approval group. This is pretty much the rules and regulations for a typical external contractor. Or say, I would say external employee on contract. By doing this, we can go ahead, continue the next step. That's been left blank, but it does test. Now we can have these forms and details. The additional requirement. Purchase order number. If you already have the purchase order number, these are the rules. We set it to yes and it is there. We have not locked it. We have not added it. And that's why we see that. We can review it and submit it by that. We'll be creating a new. Right. A contingent type, I would say. Now we shall look upon the major thing that we have to understand out of this. Template creation, or I would say the type creation, the first level of classification for contingent worker. There is one that is coming from FieldGlass itself by default. By default, it is coming from FieldGlass. The other things we can create, we can customize as per the requirements of the buyer. It will be created by the consultant or the administrator or the configuration manager himself. Let's get into the template designing. The template designing. When it comes to the template designing, the first level of classification is no doubt the type. Whether we need to create the multiple types or a single type will depend upon the buying company's requirement. If they want to use either it is S4 or C rule, it remains the same. But I would say for each role, it is better we have the templates for each role, that from the contractors. Needs different type of templates for different type of work that will be performed by the contractor. The parameters based on which the visibility will be controlled. It's like the visibility the business unit is mandatory. This is the user attribute. The business unit is coming from the user attribute. If I am the user, my business unit assigned to my user attribute will be defaulted. Category custom defined as parameter. It's the category. For example, for clerical work, one template, it's a category. For accounting, one template, it's a category. For consulting, another template, it's a category. UNSP code, it's a custom defined one. It's just for the visibility. It depends upon the companies that use it. Labor type. It's a master data that's been maintained. This labor type or something which are maintained manually in FieldGlass. It's not from the ERP. Where do we see the labor type? The labor type is right here, the content structure. We are going to maintain this manually. The roles, the different roles that they are using for. Scientific industrial. These are the labor types. By using the labor type, it will be very easy to decide how many templates they want. They've got the roles. Do they have any differentiation in the roles? And different countries might need different templates for different roles. Roles into number of countries is equal to number of templates required. Simple calculation. Timesheet. As I told you, the contractor will always report to the buying organization here. It will report to the buying organization. All the deliverables work will be given. Buyers will be. The timesheet is something which forms very important for the processing of payments here because we don't have any sort of other events maintained here. No much of characteristics, nothing as such. It's purely time and expense on which the payments are processed. The lock value, we have seen that in S4 as well. If we lock, the activity cannot be changed by anyone. Some of the values should be locked in the timesheet because it should be locked and the timesheet needs to be assigned to the respective cost center. Under the respective concept, they might be having different task codes. If that mismatches, then the payments will be very difficult. Processing the payments will be very difficult because there will be a complete mismatch in the work done too, and work has been done for business units might differ and it will be very difficult to match at the availability. For example, spend. It's a rate based on the service or the work type. Complete spend is like the timesheet and the expense sheet. It's a combination of both. It gives the complete spend for that particular role for a certain period of time. We would recommend to avoid the billable podium, estimated expenses, estimated additional spending templates. We don't do this in the templates because the templates will be used. The templates might be used by different users. Different users might have different requirements. If we are going to put it into the template when all the users are using the template, they're going to use the same thing. The billable podium by default comes in. For example, if a contractor might not need the travel, there's no point in putting across the billable podium and the additional expenses because it is exclusively given for the travel and the food purpose. We'll avoid this that you know it can be punched in by the creator of the job posting. We need to avoid these things in the templates. Rate might differ. You know it cannot be same across the roles or across the countries. We need to avoid this. Even for each country, if we are using a different type and template, we are not supposed to put this because each project might have their own budgets. We cannot foresee which project is coming in the future and what would be its budget. We cannot even imagine what is next year's budget. The union budget. We cannot even imagine that. That's the reason we are not supposed to use this. Distribution list is the list to which supplier the job posting needs to be sent to. By default, we can maintain all supplier with for that particular locality. You're going to do the business. Yes, that's there. With whom you're going to do the business. You know it's like more or less more than all the suppliers. I would say the suppliers for that particular site, serving that particular site. As I told you in the distribution, I was explaining the distribution list. If a supplier or a consultancy or a service company is willing to serve for a Chennai site, I cannot ask them to serve for the United States. For Texas, Austin, anything else. I cannot do that because it depends upon the work as well. You know these guys. They will be directly reporting to the manager. If the site is in United States, they need to have a transit from India to United States on and forth, whether it is feasible to the buyer or not. Everything comes into the picture. But it is better if we have the distribution list set to the suppliers serving those sites. Auto-register the job seeker. It can be done. Auto-register can be done. By auto-registering, it's like when once onboarded, the contractor receives the email, he registers himself to fill his time and expense on timely manner. Supplier must enter the preregs. No, this should be set to no. But there are exceptional cases as well with some of the companies. But by default, it should be no. Buyer should always enter the pay rates within the job posting, depending upon the requirements. Job seeker rates or salaries can exceed the requested. Yes, even this is again depending on the requirements, because when you say that this is what the pay is and if you set it to no, job seeker rate should not exceed the requested rate. If we set it to no and if nobody knows now the supplier's answer, it is of no use. The work has to be done to the company. And hence it is better we set it to yes, because it depends upon the requirement. Some might ask for more, but company will be still in their legacy. We were paying something last year. Can we pay the same thing this year? No, that's not possible. This is the negotiation part. To enable the negotiation part, it should be yes. Allow supplier to review the timesheet. No supplier has no reason. They don't have any reason to review the timesheets because they have nothing to do with the timesheets. Timesheets are like it will be filled by the worker or it should be automated by the punching machine. And the same thing will be reviewed and approved by the manager. Any sort of arguments there should be between the worker and the manager. Supplier has no idea because supplier is not involved here. Supplier is just involved for providing the external force workforce and for the payment plan, receiving the payment plan. Supplier receives the payments because supplier is the one who is going to pay the contractor as well. And he will be having his own markup out of it for his efforts and his management. He'll go now, keep that, and the rest will be paid to the contractor as per the work order or the contract that's been created. Hello, supplier. To review the expense sheets, yes, because supplier might validate the data for the expenses and per diem submitted. If it is just agreed upon at the time of the creation of job posting itself, there is no point for the supplier to even view that. But yes, we can set it to no. Yes or no, depending upon the contractors, depending upon the company's requirement. However, these are some of the important rules that we need to understand why it's been put across. And by that we can make up things well when we are discussing with the buying company as a consultant. Supplier can submit the absence. Yes, he can submit the absence. Supplier can submit the absence because if the contractor is unable to do that, supplier can do that on behalf of the contractor. Auto invoice expense sheet and the time sheet, yes, goes to the approver. It should be auto invoiced. That is the best thing that we can. That's the best way of utilizing, I would say. Some of the global settings at the configuration level. We have discussed this. We know what is hidden, how to hide things, lock, how to lock, and why do we lock it. For your understanding why we hide it, why we lock it. Associate all business units. Yes, certainly, all business units can be overwritten with the standard FieldGlass option to link the template with the business one. Enable rate schedule. If we enable the rate schedule, the creator of the job posting will be forced to create the schedule characteristics. It is better we enable it that the users will be having. Users will be having some amount of clutches on the job posting while creating the job posting because it cannot be completely stringent at the level of template itself. Then it will be very difficult for the users to use it because if there is any minimal changes that has to happen with respect to the rates, with respect to the expenses, it will be very difficult for them to use the templates. They have to create everything from scratch, which will not be a user-friendly stuff, and hence we enable the rate schedule. Is travel required for this position? It should be at the end user level. It should not be hidden. It should not be locked. They need to decide it while creating. Purchase order number should be locked. Purchase order number is something which is not in the Fieldglass. Fieldglass is not a standalone application. It does work as it can work as a standalone application. However, it doesn't have the ability to create the purchase requisition and purchase orders. And hence it will be integrated to Ariba in most of the cases, where once the work order is created, the first level of approval will be within the Fieldglass by the hiring manager, and the second level of approval will be a financial approval at the Ariba's end. Once PR is approved, a PO will be created and the same data will be sent back to the Fieldglass. That's the integration part, which we will not be discussing in the sessions. But this is just to give an idea. This should be locked because no one should enter this. It should be coming from the other system, if in case. But yes, whether the users know it or not, if they just punch in whatever they want, it's not going to work. The invoice reconciliation will be having the issues and the payment processing delays again. Whole lot of debugging needs to happen at that point of time. Then payments are not getting processed. We need to check why it does not. The invoice reconciliation, the consolidated invoice reconciliation is not happening. Why it's not happening? Because the purchase order is not matching. Rather than creating the problem, it's better we lock it. No one should enter it and it has to come from Ariba. This is pretty much with respect to the job posting template. Let's quickly get into the system on this time. Now we saw the types, the contingent types. This is where we are going to create the first level of classification is done here. One is by default. It would be there by Fieldglass. The remaining stuff we can create. And then the next level is job posting template. We have got the classic and standard. Standard is something which is from FiledGlass. We have renamed it as Energy Australia Standard. That's all. We can get into any of this job posting template. We can understand what we spoke about. If it is simple, the tool is being used not across the globe. It is just across the country. Rates can be maintained within the job posting template. Not a problem because it is very easy to simplify, very easy to classify things. This has been created for it's a test one. We spoke about the time and expense, auto invoice, work order rules, job seeker rules, posting rules. This applies to the user who is creating. Job seeker rules applies to the supplier who is attaching the contract. Work order rules applies to the system. How it is supposed to process. Time and expense relates to the worker owner or the buyer and the supplier as well. The author invoice. Pretty simple when compared to S4 view because we don't have the events characteristics and on here. Even there when it comes to S4 view, the events characteristics clauses, these are all something which is optional, which can be used or which can be just neglected as per the company's requirement. If I say this is one of the job posting template, if I want me to add something or create a new job posting template, associated or say I need to carry forward something out of this or I need to carry forward most of the data from this. I can create the child from this. However, this template when I create will be associated under the same job posting name. If I want to create another one where most of the data here, most of the rules and data here are matching with my requirement, I'm going to just copy. Copy it and create. Most of the info will be there. You can even go ahead and change those info. We understood the contingent type, the first level of classification, and the contingent and the job posting template. Why we use the job posting template? We use to create the job posting for the worker. I am the admin. Let me open up the users. Let me see. There we go. I find the job posting templates that's been created for the different roles. I go ahead and search any, select any one of them. Created for the start and end dates number of positions. That's been locked there in the template itself. But this is a requirement, probably, and it would have been locked. But, however, I would suggest that you not be locked because for each worker a user cannot be. Keep on creating the job postings. Rather, if they need 2 heads or 3 heads for this role, it needs to be unlocked that the user can punch in the numbers. Give the description. What are the options that's been set in to be available for the user? It's all available here. By entering all those things, we can continue. These are all the data that will be residing within the system. We can go ahead and keep on selecting randomly as long as we have no idea what needs to be created or which business unit in particular needs to be created. It's for the user friendliness. We have classified the two levels, created the templates that the user can go ahead and create the templates and distribute it amongst the suppliers as per the rules set in. Providing any sort of additional sets that to be covered for the contractor can be set in here. By creating a code name, it is not coming from any other system. It needs to be maintained in FieldGlass manually. The qualification categories. Qualification categories are like some of the qualifications that is required for each of the roles that they would utilize for the contingent workforce. For example, administration and management description, what they need, what a contractor should possess. Data has been given in the description. There are a whole lot of categories that can be created. For each one we can set in. We have a qualification that has been set in here. How we assess concentration? Let me show you where it is coming from. It is a qualification. These are the qualifications. Finance, Microsoft Word, Excel, PowerPoint, imaging software, Photoshop. See, these are all the qualifications that a contractor needs. These are the categories that can be created. For example, I create something like this. I can have the number of classification that is required. Finance, history and archaeology. The classification that's been created there. I can even add the classification if I want from the classification list that I have bought. If you want to add the classification altogether, we can add the classification here. Right here. It is all something which we need to maintain manually within FieldGlass. Shift is the shift timings that some of the companies might follow. Day, afternoon, evening, shift 1, shift 2, shift 3. They can create that. We can utilize the same. We can utilize the same as well by creating the job posting or the contingent type as well. If they are using, they can create worker pay type. Worker pay type is something which will be used extensively because it is based upon this the payments are processed for contingent workforce. For example, we go here, see how many job posting templates has been assigned. It's been assigned to many. How do we assign while creating the job posting template? These are the job posting templates to which it's been assigned. These things need to be right in place way before we are creating these or the job postings. These are the requirements. We see it here, one of the rows. Or in the name, we can put on the description as well here how many job posting templates it's been associated with. They are paid on this pay type itself. Let's talk about the approval config. In first place, it is approval rules rather than it is approved. Where is the approval rules setup? Under the configuration. We are coming under the configuration now. There we go with the approval rules. There are numerous approval rules that can set up here. I can go through any one of them. Timesheet approval rule, for example. You see, these are the filters. Based upon what the approval needs to happen. It has to pass the condition. We need to set the condition here. If that transaction data passes the condition, then the approval can be triggered. That way we can create the new one module. There are numerous modules. Each of these modules can be set to approval. For example, we have spoken about the SOW, we have spoken about the SOW. There are some of the transaction events that are happening here. Let's say if it is an SO invoice, name it. Add the condition. The condition will be highlighted here. What are all the conditions that we want? _1 to 5. This is one of the conditions that's been set up. Like if a contractor is a contractor or a consultant. If an external worker is working on overtime, it should be paid 1.25 times. If he's paid 100 rupees per hour, for example, it will be 125 rupees going overtime. These are the rules. As like we write the conditions in the mathematics or the programming where we do. It's the condition. In a simple way, the condition is overtime. Condition equals some value. I'm not putting more conditions here. It does like this. For example, if I have to put on the low condition, add the comparison conditions. This is the second level of condition. We can compare the condition. Add it, compare it. And based upon that, we can create the rule. These rules are then utilized. For example, again statement of work. Statement of work over 100,000 but less than 1 million. Statement of work spent greater than or equal to 100. And spend less than or equal to 1 million. The budget of statement of work or the expenditure incurred out of that statement of work is way beyond 100,000 but less than 10 million. Less than 1 million rather. This is the approval flow. This is the approval rule. Rather, I would say, these are the approval rules. By this, we can set the approval rules. And all these approval rules are used in the approval group. Here is the approval group. This is the approval group. There, we go ahead and use those. For example, blame sheet. I'm picking up. This is the approval group. Approval group in the sense, who is going to approve it? Approval group stands for people who are held responsible to approve the transaction. An approval rule is the place where we set the conditions. Where we set up the condition as per the company's requirement. Company doesn't want to spend more than 1 million on an H4W. We'll set that rule there. If, in case, it exceeds that, it needs to get the approval from their managing director. We are going to put across. Use that rule and put that person here in the approval group that it goes to the approval accordingly. Now it is timesheet. Timesheet. But timesheet, by default it has to go for the approval, whatever the case is. Irrespective of the scenario, it has to go. It is the worker. Primary contact means the supervisor. Second is cost object owner. The cost object owner is someone who is the manager of that cost center. And even this setup might be different in different companies. This is how it has to go. This is an approval. When this is a notification. Once it's been approved, it just goes for the notification. You can add as many approvals as we want. Let's do a timesheet. There we go. We have the timesheet here. Timesheet. We have got the timesheet approval rule. Timesheet task codes equals hours worked and timesheet billable hours greater than 0. If it is 0, there is no point in filling the timesheet or going for an approval or billable days greater than 0. This is the rule that's been set, approval rule that's been set. However, It's not been assigned to any of the approval group. We can go ahead and assign it as well. In the approval group, create approval group. Take timesheet. Next, my approval amount can be set in here. Who should be the one who is doing it? Supervisor of the worker. It's an approval. It's not an escalation. It's an approval. Billable day of a greater timesheet. We can even add an additional one. Or I think you can understand these relations. Or in the sense anything out of tour 1 happens, it triggers the approval. And in the sense both has to happen. You would have studied in computer science, electronics, even in mathematics. Whatever you say, you have this logical relation. We need to understand how the company is working, how they would deploy FieldGlass. We need to provide them the best way to deal the FieldGlass with. Based upon the outcomes, they need to configure all these things. But yes, see, I feel pretty. It might be too heavy for you guys to understand, but at least understand what happens where. That it would be very easy for you. Moving further, getting into your project. Let's look upon some of the rules. We saw that we can add different conditions for a particular module. Multiple conditions can be created there. Conditions might be a complex arithmetic operation or it might be a simple logical operation. Data field name. We can have the module selected. We can have the standard as well as the custom field. Both appears there. We'll get into the creation of the custom fields. Brackets or the child conditions. We can have numerous conditions, as I told you. It's better we don't complicate it very much complicated. Creating a child after a child, putting on the brackets. We should try to simplify things and put on the rules. We need to break up the complex equation into the simple one. A maximum of 5 levels of hierarchies are supported. 5 level of hierarchies in the sense maximum 5 brackets. We saw that they're under the option. And we have got the logical operator to connect with different conditions. Conditions are like the normal operators based on the data type for the particular data field. As we told the conditions, if it does a timesheet, we have one condition. If it is an S word, we have another condition. In first place, we need to understand what we are dealing with, and then the variables or attributes that we are dealing with respect to that particular module. The approval rules once being created there, we are going to utilize that in the approval group as I showed you guys. Bypass duplicate approvals. We can set it to yes. We can set it to yes because we don't need the duplicate approvals. We don't need the same approver approving multiple times. Currency can be set to all because for each currency, we cannot keep on building a rule. We are complicating the system altogether. For each currency, we are doing this. For each country, for each role, we created the templates. That's a different thing. Whereas, if we do this, we need to create the rule for each and every currency, which is going to be a complicated stuff. Irrespective of the currencies that's being used, the conditions remains the same. We can consider all the currency, maximum approval amount. As for the company's requirement, I've just put in just for the understanding purpose. We can include all the business units. By including that, any new business unit comes into the picture, it's going to work accordingly. If we limit this business unit, it's again a problem. It's a complication, more of a work for the configuration or the administrator part. Number of approval levels within the approval. We need to the conditions, as we understood the conditions. Number of approval level. How many approval levels we need depends upon the condition. If an SOW is crossing the limits of 100,000, first level of approval is enough. If it is crossing 1 million, we need to have 2 levels of approvals. If it is crossing 25 million, we need to have 3 levels of approvals. On and forth. Based upon that, we can try to configure it. We need to also make clients understand that what is best and what is best for them. Because, see, they might not understand, they might not know what it is, what best is with respect to the FiledGlass. We need to make them understand. Also, we need to make them understand that they cannot be keep on putting whole lot of conditions, whole lot of operations. logical operations and conditions. It's going to complex the issue. We need to make it as simple as possible. The approval group config. It's like how we get triggered. I just showed you. First level of approval is from whom the worker's supervisor. The second level of approval is N+1 supervisor. Third level of approval is from the cost center owner. We can even set the notifications. The first level approval is done. The cost center owner will get a notification. We can set that as well. The root role is like any user, the users we see there. Any user having the role approvals as the role approvals. A supervisor might be having it. Supervisors will be having it. The approval will trigger to them and the level will be approved by them. The role bracket is like it's like any role the company wants to assign as an approver can be done. As we explored, there are a whole lot of roles that's been set up. Any user roles. It's not the other roles. It's the user roles that's been maintained in the system. We get that populated there in the Dropbox, and we can create that. Approval mail can be set up in the messaging part. We saw that we have the messaging template and message setup. There, we can go ahead and use that. Here it is. It is all set to default. Emails and notifications can be set there. Escalation mail is when certain period is reached. The first level of approval should be by the worker's supervisor. He should do it in certain period of time. If he is not doing in certain period of time, an escalation mail will be sent to the supervisor's supervisor. This is an example. Supervisor. We can set it as escalation and escalation mail will be sent to him, where he will make the supervisor to take the action on. Notification is just a kind of notification. Notification is just a kind of mail that gives what is happening. He cannot take the action. We can set the notification by default to the supervisor's supervisor in case we can just set the notification and escalation mail after certain period of time. Say, for example, he is not taking the action even after 1 week. We can set it as the escalation after 1 week. However, once it goes for the approval, We can set the notification to the supervisor's supervisor, that is N+1. Again, it is left to the company's discretion. I'm just giving you a simple logic of how we can build this. Scenario for level 1. As we explained scenario for level 1, condition is R, less than 1 and no approval, less than 1 black no approval. I've just given the examples in between. It's for the owner. Over 10 life cost object owner. If it is condition set to N. And it's like, we have got 3. We have got 3 conditions here. With all the 3 are satisfied. If all the 3 needs to be satisfied for an approver to approve, we can set it as and we can use the condition and. This is with respect to the approval flow, approval rule and the approval group. Approval group or approval flow. It's one of the same. We are going to set the approval rules here. And the same thing, we are going to utilize it. And that's with respect to the approval. A rule and the how to set the approval rule and how to incorporate that in the approval flow or approval group. Now we have to maintain something called, let's get into the custom field as well. The custom field creation. These custom fields are always optional. We have got the native fields that comes from FiledGlass. Custom fields are something which we utilize on top of it, as I explained to you. As for the company's requirement, let me show you guys if it makes sense to you. Let's go through this. What? This is a what ID? This is a worker ID for the job posting. When it is a job posting, we can clearly understand that it is for CView module. We have got the fields here. You see here? Success factor positioning ID. Success factor positioning ID is not a native field from FiledGlass. FiledGlass doesn't provide that. We have to create this. Wherever you see this, I, it indicates that that is something which is visible to the buyer alone. And it also marks that it is a custom field created. How I would say, I'll go ahead, copy this, Sir. Custom field here. Under configuration custom field, I am going to search. We found that this is the custom field. It's being created here. This value is populated via integration from PageUp. PageUp is one of the manager value. Is it a read-only? If it is set to read-only, you know it will not be available while creating the work order. However, it just populates once the data is available from the system via integration. Similarly, how does it affect? These are all the setup that we do. This is the worker module. Worker module in the sense it's a worker right. Linked from work order. Linked from work order in the sense the data first comes to the work order. The data first comes to the work order via integration. And from work order, the respective worker ID will be synced. For example, this is the one. This is a worker ID. This is the worker. We see the positioning right. Similarly, we go to the worker ID of the same person, the work order of the same person. We should see the same thing there. It first comes here via integration and it's been linked there. How do we do that practically? Go to the custom field. We can create a new one. We need to select the module. We have got numerous modules. We can go ahead and select one. If we need a description, we can describe it. Is it a mandatory value or not? It should be a read-only or not. Normally, it will be a mandatory value when it is a custom field because that's the reason why we are creating. If it is not a mandatory value, we don't have to create the custom field at all. There is no point in doing that. We can just use a native fields though. Those are available in the system and utilize those. That would be a pretty much requirement. Is it a mandatory value or not? Certainly most of the time it is. It should be a read-only or not. Or is it editable by any of them? If it is coming to the integration, you know, we should set it no. It should be a read-only. Entered by whom? Normally it is buyer. Supplier has nothing to do. Entered by roles or rows. Selected roles. Integration only. If it is integration only, it has to happen through the integration algorithm. Or as an administrator, you can use the connector and upload. Sequence is where it should. Where it should be. Where it should. It should be visible in the list. Is it? Is it? Should be the first. Custom field. Or it should be a second one. Or it should be a third one. That forms the sequence. For example, in a work order or in a worker aid. Is it supposed to be a first one or the second one? Is what the sequence is. Section. In which section it should be. Is in the accounting section or the posting information. In the worker. I have selected the worker and I am getting these options in the details. If I select the work order, I get the options. The sections that is available under the work order. Stored data encrypted. If I set it as yes, it's only the administrator. If I set it as yes, it's only the administrator or the user's manager who can use, who can see those data. Encryption is like the data needs to be in the form of data itself. Does it needs to be in the star? For example, I think you guys know when we are entering the password, you have got the I option on the right hand side. If you click on that, you can see what you have entered. If not, it will just be a dot dot dot. Similarly, this will be a star. Asterisk asterisk. Supposedly, I didn't fill up identifiable information. Is it? Is it another number? Is it a phone number? If it is yes, put it to yes. If it is a generalized one, we'll leave it to no. Visibility to whom it needs to be visible. To whom it needs to be visible. Affects whom. Length modules. We can link the modules here. I have selected the worker modules. Link it to many modules here. Let's quickly go through what I have prepared. As I explained, read only. User can edit the field or not. If it is read, only user cannot. Entered by user is whom, buyer or supplier. The requirement should be by the client itself. Entered by role. Filtering the buyers who can enter the data. It can be buyer or integration only, as we saw. Section plus replacement is for formatting option. Section and placement is like as I explained. You know in which section it should be. And the sequence in which sequence it should be. If I put 1, it will be first amongst the custom fields. If I put 2, it will be second amongst the custom fields. It doesn't relate to. It doesn't count on the native fields. Copy value from sources for the view. Copy value from sources for view. In the sense, Any value that needs to be copied from parent to a child, that is master to a child. Store data. Encrypted data will be visible or not. If we encrypt it as I told, it will be asterisk. That fits all the templates. Will it affect the suppliers? Yes or? We just need to tick mark here. We just need to tick mark. Sorry, where is it? We just need to tick mark here. Business units. Business units. To which business units it relates. We don't need to select at all. We should say for all business units because we cannot keep on bifurcating this and complicate the configuration part. For all the business units, let's set the same rule. Let's set the same configuration or the custom field creations. Classification type whereas perb will be used. The classifications can be setting. Visible to whom it can be made visible. If there is something which is completely related to the worker and the buyer supplier doesn't need to know about it. He has nothing to understand what this we can disable. Or say the visibility can be blocked to the supplier. In such cases, there are certain things which will be exclusively known to the supplier. For example, it is called a security ID. Security ID is one of the unique key that's been set up in FieldGlass that should be set up by the supplier himself. That is something which will be hidden from the buyer. Because that is hidden from the buyer because it's the unique field that can be utilized as the employee ID in the supplier company. Or it is like he doesn't want to. The buyer doesn't want to get to know about it and understand what all happening with that security ID. He has nothing to deal with that security ID. It is just that in that case it is visible to the supplier because supplier is going to enter that data via the job seeker. When he creates the job seeker and the same job seeker will be attached to the job posting. And the job posting and then the reviewer reviews it and he approves it. He selects the contractor, then a work order will be created. In all cases, it is going to be just the security ID that will be visible to the supplier because he entered it and it will not be visible to the buyer. In that way, we can configure Set up the custom fields as per the buyer's requirement. And finally, do not forget to like, share and subscribe to our channel.